There's lots to get to. Let's get to it. First, Canada is getting international attention. UK, the dailymail.co.uk, is running a headline talking about MAID, government-assisted death, going for drug addicts and depression and mental health. David says, Canada to legalize medically assisted dying for drug addicts. Quote, I just think that MAID, when it has entered the arena around mental health and substance use, is really rooted in eugenics. Eugenics, remember that? That was part of what happened, what kicked off the Second World War. Hitler was trying to create a master race, right? Like that was a whole thing. And eugenics is back again. And eugenics means we want to kill people who are going to suck our socialized healthcare dry because they're going to live a long time, but we're going to have to pay a lot of money to make them live a long time. So maybe, give them a way out of that and us a way out of that. And everybody's on board by a narrow margin. Here's Avis, and they say, bill that would have stopped MAID, medically assisted government death eugenics, from being offered for mental illness as sole reason, defeated by a narrow margin. Assisted dying for mental disorders as a sole reason becomes legal, March 2024. So you better hope that your loved ones don't get depressed to the point where they walk into a medically assisted dying booth, right? Do you know why you're here? Yes. Do you want to proceed? Right? Well, it's in Futurama. It's a joke in Futurama, right? Holy smoke. Pretty wild. I think it was even the first season. That was pointed out in the Canada Poly chat. So Holly Doan says MP, and they linked the scene too, but I couldn't find it right now. Anyway, Holly Doan says MP chokes back tears as he tells Commons Health Committee that safe supply of drugs is a killer. Todd Doherty, I'm probably getting it wrong, says brother-in-law died of accidental fentanyl overdose and another brother lives on the street. This policy is made by another avenue. It is another government death policy. You want to die? Sure, we'll directly kill you. But if you want to die and you came to like me, I couldn't kill you. I'm not allowed to kill you, even if you give me permission. I don't want to kill anybody. That's not something that I'm interested in, really. I've been raised in North America. I'm too soft for that. I don't want to kill anybody. I would even feel guilty in like a war situation. I think killing somebody. Guilty is not the right word. And who knows what would happen in a real war, because probably the circumstances would be different than me sitting in my garage right now. But I've heard stories of soldiers on the front lines shooting up, right? I feel like, rather than shooting at their enemy, right? I feel like, yeah, maybe, I don't know. So, but this MAID thing is known to cause deaths. Our overdose deaths in Guelph in 2019 or 2020 doubled. Here's a news article, but it's not like, oh, we didn't know. No, we know. We absolutely know that this ends in death. We know that this is not a revelation. This is now it's now killing so many people that it's undeniable, and people are talking about it because they themselves have been personally affected multiple times with multiple people living on the street. Safe supply is, the drug dealers are running the government at this point in time, and their buddies, the drug producers, are Big Pharma. And we're just fine with it. And Big Pharma funds our healthcare. And also, by the way, you're not allowed to have any of those health supplements anymore because that's illegal, because the government wants to protect you. It's safe and effective. The Big Pharma solution, but not these, vitamin C, vitamin D, pshaw, right? Unbelievable stuff. Andy Lee, so moving on. And I'm of course being facetious. The government is not on the side of the citizen. I think that's very clear. They would rather you choose MAID if you're mentally ill. They would rather you choose MAID by another name. Go have a fentanyl addiction and maybe that'll put you 6 feet under, says the government. We'll provide the fentanyl, right? You're welcome. Don't get any of that poison stuff. Just, kill yourself with ours. Ridiculous. It's unbelievable. Moving on to more government news, really. Andy Lee is asking who got rich. Justin Trudeau's personal friend, Annette V. And Michael says at least $38 million of $1 billion green slush fund, green being like environmental slush fund, is under investigation by the RCMP. Whistleblowers are pleading for legal and career protection for speaking out on yet another abuse of taxpayer money. You could have career protection and maybe they'll keep you around for a while, but all of a sudden they'll forget to invite you when it's a staff birthday party. Like, you won't be wanted, and you'll know it. And it feels uncomfortable to go into work every day when it feels like that. And so, like, they'll get rid of you is what I'm trying to say, right? Like, you may be protected, but you're never really protected. And if you do not play ball, if you do not go with the current thing, Slava Ukraine or Slava Israel, or, which one are we saying this week? Who are we sending money to now? If you're not 100% on board, unquestioningly on board, then you're the enemy. You're literally Hitler or a terrorist or whatever they call you. Here is the House of Commons discussing. Larry Brock is talking about the RCMP investigations that are ongoing in this government. And he says, after 8 years of Trudeau, the police are investigating criminality in the highest echelons of this government. Instead of cooperating with several RCMP investigation, Justin Trudeau shuts down debates, shuts down committees, and now he hides behind cabinet confidence. Yeah. This is just a minute 30. Here we go.
Député Brantford Brant.
Mr. Speaker, no one is above the law. This includes the Prime Minister. And after 8 years, he is the only one in Canadian history found guilty of breaking not one, but 2 ethics laws. And now with the Rise scam, the RCMP is investigating criminality in the highest echelons of this government. And what is the Prime Minister's response? He shuts down debate. He shuts down committee, and now he hides behind cabinet confidence. He is not worth the cost. Under dark clouds of suspicion, will the Prime Minister cooperate now with several RCMP investigations?
L'honorable secrétaire parlementaire.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And as the member opposite should know by this time, the Prime Minister does not dictate committees. In fact, it is the responsibility of members in this House to determine what the committees decide to move forward with. But with that being said, Mr. Speaker, we have faith and trust in the RCMP and those that are set to investigate any accusations of wrongdoing. Mr. Speaker, we look forward to any reports that come forward from the RCMP, and Mr. Speaker, any form of misconduct will have consequences.
Still, the answer doesn't really address any of the questions. Will the government, will the Prime Minister cooperate with any of the investigations? They just gloss over it. Liberals don't answer questions they don't like. Zachary says, there may be lots of horrific things happening overseas, but we have massive problems in Canada to deal with, which demand our attention and priority. Inflation, immigration, indoctrination, censorship, housing, energy, freedom, all being made worse by the government, by their policies. Bill Blair, remember yesterday when I told you that, maybe I didn't mention it, but mentioned that prayers were going to be limited at Remembrance Day ceremonies this year. Bill Blair says, let's be very clear, Canadian Forces chaplains are not and will not be banned from prayer on Remembrance Day, nor at any other time. The chaplain's general directive seeks to ensure that the public addresses reflect the spiritual and religious diversity of Canadians. No response saying, Minister Blair, I will post the entire directive right here for Canadians to make up their own mind. The previous directive from 2013 is called the, quote, public prayer at military ceremonies. The new one is called spiritual reflections in public settings and effectively removes the word prayer, from which chaplains are allowed to do. It says the chaplain's service embodies and embraces the principle of state religious neutrality. Saying a Christian prayer would arguably go against this principle. Page 1 to 4 below, 4 to 8 in the next post. And it's interesting. You can read through it. It's beyond, I'm not going to read through it. It'll be very long and kind of arduous. But he's making a very good point, right? And it's interesting that Bill Blair is saying one thing when presumably, like, you'd think he would know that he's incorrect. Is he trying to mislead, or is he communicating what he believes to be the truth? And, he'll go and fix that. I don't know. I'm not going to hold my breath. Julie Dershowitz, and she's a member of Parliament for Davenport, Toronto. She says, Pierre Poilievre and his Conservatives are working hard to bring American-style far-right politics to Canada. These tactics are reckless and irresponsible. He's not worth the risk. So Poilievre is saying Trudeau's not worth the cost, and now they're saying he's not worth the risk. So here's the video. I think it's kind of sloppy. And, well, the funny thing is, to me, what sticks out, the video is they're trying to use American politicians' rhetoric and comparing it to Polyev and other Polyev people like Andrew Scheer and other notable conservatives in the Conservative Party. But these guys, and saying that because they're using the same rhetoric, they're importing American-style politics. These guys actually import, the liberals actually import American politicians like Hillary Clinton, who's terrible for all sorts of reasons. There are many. I'm not going to get into any of them because it's well past the scope of this podcast. But Norm Macdonald does a half hour on Hillary Clinton murdering people. And it's so funny. And it has nothing to do with politics except that she was Arkansas and then, First Lady and all of the rest of it. But if you're interested in finding out more about Hillary Clinton, look up Norm Macdonald, Hillary Clinton on YouTube, and you'll understand why this picture is terrifying. American-style politics, like Clinton-style politics, that's scary. Now that is terrifying, right? But I don't know that this is that. Here's some of this video. Here we go.
Woke, 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 woke.
The left cannot meme at all. Seriously? Obviously. Case closed. Ridiculous. That's funny. I mean, I have to double check that that's not somebody taking the piss. It's not. She's serious. What can you say to that? That is not. The video does not deliver the promise, okay? Danielle Smith, let's move on. I think the CPP is insolvent. I think that our money, I'm laughing, but hold on, I'll wipe a tear away here. I'm laughing, but I think that our retirement money has been stolen by the government, possibly gambled away in Atlantic City, possibly put into the Ukraine oil and gas companies, possibly just given to Joe Biden and he's forgotten where he's buried it. Who knows what he gave it to Corn Pop, okay? I have no idea what's happened to the money. But Alberta's saying, we'd really like, that money we gave you yesterday to hold on to, the Canadian government? And they're like, Alberta's like, we'd really like to, end all of that. And we're just going to take our money and we're going to go and you guys, everything will be fine. You do what you do. And we're going to do what we do. And it's cool. And now the Canadian government is getting very, very upset. Everybody and his dog and Polyev, I'll show you in a minute, is losing their mind about this perhaps happening. Here's Danielle Smith responding to Justin Trudeau. She says, first, our Prime Minister wanted to force Alberta to its knees with Bill C-69. The Supreme Court told him it was unconstitutional and illegal. Now he writes a letter to Alberta that he wants to take all necessary steps to stop Albertans from voting on a pension plan. Here's my response. So I'll rewind this here.
This is a question for Premier Smith, and it is related to the letter from the Prime Minister that was sent to you and to the entire universe. Since it was an open letter.
Yeah, I think the universe received it before I did, actually. So
I'm wondering if you think part of his reason for intervening isn't just about pensions, but might also be about that ongoing debate going on between the Alberta government and Ottawa.
Well, I think it's because they lost a Supreme Court ruling on Friday. And they're trying to act as if that ruling didn't come down. But I can tell you, it did. I've read the Constitution. I know what it says. I think that they should read the ruling and read the Constitution and stay in their lane. And so I think that this is probably a reaction to having lost so badly and knowing that we are going to defend our constitutional rights every chance we can and that the Supreme Court is going to back us. So I think his letter was inappropriate in tone. It was overwrought. He's trying to overstate it to make some kind of political point. And quite frankly, I just don't think that that's helpful. I think we should allow for the process to play out, let Albertans decide, because we do have a constitutional right to manage our pensions under Section 94 of the Constitution.
What is your reaction to...
We'll leave it there. I mean, it's good that they're going into this fight. Here's Pierre Poilievre. He's weighing in. National Post says, I encourage Albertans to stay in the CPP. Poilievre speaks on Alberta pension plan proposal. Ruh-roh. That's very interesting, don't you think? Is Alberta going to look past that? Is Poilievre going to move to block this? Can they even move to block this? I don't know. I don't think so. But as Danielle Smith said, we have a constitutional right. It's written in there, right there in the Constitution. And so does the government have a way to veto that? I don't think so. Notwithstanding, right? I think the government has to do what Danielle Smith says in this instance. So that's interesting. And it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Do you think it's a smart move for Mr. Polyev to come out on the side of the pension plan staying with the CPP? It seems like Alberta. It seems like a wedge issue. It seems like something that could split people off. So kind of, well, silly. Silly is not maybe the right word. Maybe a miscalculation, but maybe not. Andy Lee, continuing to speak about money, is asking about fraud. She's responding to Michael Sanger. He says, today, auditors told Congress in the U.S. as much as $2.5 trillion with a T of the $5 trillion the U.S. spent on COVID relief went to China and its allies through fraud. That's enough to fund the entire Chinese military for 8 years. Keep that in mind when you hear how great our COVID response was. And Andy Lee says, how about Canada? What do you think about here? And she says, fraud controls were so lax on trillions of tax dollars spent by government agencies on pandemic benefits that as much as half of those funds actually went to entities in China, Russia, and other adversarial nations, a congressional panel was told. Yay. So, not great. Not great. Holly Doan says number of federal employees has increased by 26% since 2015. That's worrisome, says the PBO, and he tells Government Operations Committee. Of course, yes, that's worrisome. If 1 in 4 people work for the government, we're not producing anything, and that's bad. That is bad for what the country can make. The GDP, the production of the country goes down. There's all sorts of reasons that that's bad. But if you hamstring the private sector and grow the public sector, grow the tax-funded sector, at some point, the people who are funding it in the private sector will rebel. They'll say, this is a little bloated, don't you think? This cost of these departments is quite a lot for what I'm getting, considering, all of the funds I'm paying and the fees I'm paying and the, how much for a license or whatever it is, right? It seems we don't get a bang for our buck, but the government is subsidizing the spending it's doing through creating these jobs to make it look like everything's fine, in my opinion, when in fact the opposite is true. Here's Pierre Poilievre asking about money. He said, I asked 10 top government officials where government money comes from. When I played this, it didn't work. I refreshed the page. It might work, but I downloaded it anyway, just in case it doesn't. We're just going to watch the first minute, but I don't think it's going to work. Here we go.
Now I'd like to welcome
our
witness.
It's not working.
To welcome.
I have no idea what's going on with this video. So they don't want this video shown, but it's a Poilievre video. Here is the downloaded version of this video. Here we go.
To welcome our witnesses from the Ministry of Finance. We will have with us...
How is the government paying the $7 billion bill associated with this proposal?
That question is directed to who, Mr. Poilievre?
Anyone who wants to answer it. If they have anyone over there that is concerned about where the money comes from, that person could speak up.
Maybe you could choose one of the witnesses?
I don't know who on their side is responsible for this, but clearly they're getting the money from somewhere, so they must know where. Anyone here from Finance Canada?
I see Mr. Baylor.
Mr. Chair, I can provide a high-level response, but I'm afraid I won't be able to answer directly the honourable member's question. Because we're here to discuss it. And what I can say with regards to the cost of the measures in terms of Part 1, the 3 first programs that I mentioned, the hospitality.
The question was, how much, where are you getting the money for this? And they don't have an answer. Nobody wanted to answer. Wild, right? Like, how do you not have an answer if you don't know, like, where does the money come from? They don't know. They have no idea. Here's Cabird, C.A. and she says, Trudeau in one day gives borrowed Canadian dollars to the Caribbean for $58 million for renewable energy projects, $6 million for resilient energy systems, $3.4 million for Haiti firearms violence, $3.2 million for Caribbean firearms roadmap, 18.3 million for vaccine equity, and that's 89.4 million bucks. And here's the Reuters report on that. I didn't find the $89.4 million total in here, but it is the conference that they're attending is actually in Canada. I thought it was maybe down in the Dominican Republic. I was incorrect. It's in Canada. So that's why Justin Trudeau is not in all of the question period and things like that, because he's hobnobbing with other world leaders and handing out millions of Canadian dollars. So Reuters says Canada and Caribbean bloc vows stronger bilateral ties at Ottawa summit, right? So that was yesterday. And so they are certainly spending Canadian dollars. What does Canada get out of all of that? What does Canada get out of $18 million for vaccine equity if that's what we're sending? Why? How does that help us? Why are we doing it? It doesn't seem to make rational sense, does it? I've got a little bit of China news for you, which is unexpected. They've been really not interested in covering China or India or any of the gaffes that Trudeau's had in the last a couple weeks. Holly Doan says, there are many people in Canada who are on an ongoing basis being targeted by foreign interference, and it was not my job to inform them, Rob Stewart, the ex-Deputy Minister of Safety Canada, said. So that's weird. Not my monkeys, not my problem, right? Like, not my circus, not my monkeys, not my problem. But it kind of is all of those things, but he just didn't mention anything to anybody. Weird. Here's Naya, and she says, CSIS chief opens up about China's interest in Canadian universities. Quote, everything that they're doing in our universities and in new technology, it's going back into a system very organized to create dual-use applications for the military. TikTok is used differently in China than it's used in North America. North America, it promotes wasting time and games and stupid challenges and things like that. In China, it promotes very different ideals and things like that. Science experiments, high achievement, things like that. STEM. Hello, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful